We have none other than CEO of PureFlow Water, Christina. Welcome to the show. Why I wanted to get you on the show is that it's not only about the water, it's about the education.
In Australia is alarming. We've got 140% more carcinogenic ingredients in the tap water than America. Bottled water industry in the last year was a $1.8 billion industry.
Wow.
Unfortunately, water is a highly unregulated industry. We need to be so self-educated because no one's coming to save us. Because every disease stems from inflammation.
Yeah.
I mean, paraquat is one of the most dangerous herbicides, and it can literally kill if you drink it, and it's sprayed everywhere. You know, we have infertility is on the rise. Testosterone levels in men decreasing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the way that we live, it's a toxic soup. So taking a 10-minute shower is basically the equivalent of drinking 6 to 8 glasses of tap water.
Wow. Welcome to Breaking the Algorithm. Excited about this episode today, long overdue. I'm personally a big fan as well and a loyal client, so it's been great to have you on here. But we have none other than CEO of PureFlow Water, Christina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And so, like I said, loyal fan of yours in regards to your product and the water. Made a really big difference for me. And why I wanted to get you on the show is that it's not only about the water, it's about the education. And it's about your mission and the way you approach it. Because, you know, it's one thing just to serve a product, but it's another thing that you do in regards to spreading the message and awareness around some of the massive problems we have in Australia, but globally, with quality of water, disease, and I guess misinformation around what's in the water as well. So I'm excited to break the algorithm with you.
Awesome, I can't wait.
Yeah, so why don't we start by how the hell did you get into water? And where did this mission come from of trying to educate people and really help them in this way?
Yeah, honestly, I have to say, God just put this in front of me. He just put this on my path, moved mountains. I've always been super health conscious. But you know when you're doing all the things, but you still just don't feel like you're 100%, like you're functioning at 100%. You know, you can take all the supplements, you can eat all the foods, try all the diets, and you're still just not at 100%.
Yeah.
So that's where sort of we delved into the water of it all, because it's, regardless of what your diet is, everybody consumes water. We're 60% water.
Yeah.
Everything in our body requires hydration and water to function. Where it really tipped me over was when I was pregnant. And it wasn't about me anymore. It was about my child, my children, you know, and then it spread over to other families. I'm just like, how many other people don't know these things? And then I was sort of going down the rabbit hole of, okay, wait, what's in our tap water? What are the other options? You know, what are people drinking? What are people consuming? Why is this sort of barrier to us being fully healthy and fully functioning the way we should? You know, as a society, we're getting smarter. But why are we at the same time getting more and more unhealthy? Why, biodynamically, why are we getting more unhealthy? So that's where I was kind of like, what's the base of everything? Water. You know, what is the starting point for everything is water. And so that's where I sort of delved into tap water to begin with. And I mean, Australia is alarming the way it is. I mean, it's some areas are worse than America. We've got 140% more carcinogenic ingredients in the tap water than America. And that's really alarming. You've got the overuse of herbicides and pesticides, which then leak and leach into our waterways, into our systems. You've got the fact that water plants reuse wastewater. So all of our wastewater it goes to a treatment plant, and it's a very basic 3-step process. So they remove the big sediment, then they put it through some kind of filtration, and there's aeration, and then they put bacteria in it to basically eat away at whatever's in there, and then there's chlorine and a UV light that goes through it, and then it's released back out into our oceans, our rivers, our water catchment, and then basically it's then found in spring water, it's found back in our taps. And then, I mean, taking a 10-minute shower is the equivalent of drinking about 8 glasses of tap water. So there's just so many different factors that I started looking into, and it was just like one after the other. So I was just like, you know, what can I do? I wanted to make it accessible to people. I wanted to make it affordable for people. The bottled water industry in the last year was a $1.8 billion industry.
Wow.
So you can see like everyone wants a piece of that pie, and with that will come greenwashing, will come just false advertising. Now, unfortunately, water is a highly unregulated industry. Completely, I mean, basically unregulated. I've had customers reach out who use spring water companies who just weren't testing their water. And as a spring water company, you have to test every 6 months because of the higher likelihood of bacteria. And they just weren't testing.
Wow.
I've had customers reach out saying that they were drinking local spring waters and their family got sick. I mean, it's just also, and then you have the other side of things where regulators are for sale, right? So a lot of the regulators are industry funded. So you have the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicine Association, and they're the people who are meant to regulate herbicides and pesticides use in Australia. They are essentially fully industry funded. So you've got the people who they're meant to be regulating are funding them. So, you know, conflict of interest, 100%.
Yeah.
So you're constantly in the state of like, oh, well, it's not regulated, but you can't trust the regulators anyway. So that's where I went down the line of, like, we need to be so self-educated because no one's coming to save us. And the thing is, like the saying that you have 1,000 problems when you're healthy and you have 1 problem when you're sick. And I look around and I see so many sick people who are just like a low level sick and unhealthy. And that's where my mission was just like, I want to educate people. I want you to be in a position where you are making an educated decision. Decide what you want to drink. If you don't care, you don't care now. I guarantee you'll care eventually.
Totally.
But go into that arena fully armed. You know your facts, know what to look out for. Know that when a benchtop filter, you know, a jug says up to 90%, it's not 90 because it's up to, right? Know that Brita has a class action lawsuit because it doesn't filter water, because false advertising. You know, go into the arena being able to connect the dots of like what drinking tap water could really mean. And where if you know you're sick or you've got gut issues, you've got all these things, you know, maybe make one switch and then see, reassess, you know. And it's such a small thing to change with such a massive benefit.
So true. Yeah.
And it's the investment. Do you know what I mean?
Well, exactly right. And then, like you said, you're investing in your future, your family's future. But, you know, so much to unpack with what you just said there.
Yeah, sorry, I just like...
No, I mean, it's awesome. What a good way to intro. But I mean, inevitably, this is the education piece is why you definitely stand out as a product, as a brand, and as an entrepreneur as well. Because, again, the awareness around this is really not out there, even though we've got Google, ChatGPT, we've got social media, and still we're not connecting the dots. And although I feel like in the last 24 months, you know, RFK's come out with a bunch of info in the US about him fighting this over there and talking about fluoride and, you know, all the other chlorine and things in the water over there. And inevitably, like you just mentioned, we have some worse case scenarios over here, which is really, really quite scary. And so this is a good opportunity for everyone listening to start thinking about the impact on their health, the impact on their family's health, and of course, disease. You know, we were speaking off camera just before the show and we were talking about the increase in cancers, bowel cancer, cognitive decline and things of that nature. And the scariest thing is that, like we mentioned before, it's the norm. People think that it's normal to feel like shit, to have all this disease, rather than thinking, what is causing it? What can I improve to make sure that this doesn't happen to me and my family moving forward? And then the worst part is that even a lot of healthy people don't realize, and they think they're doing the right thing if they're not educated. Like, I'm drinking lots of water, but even just from a hydration standpoint, normal water doesn't even hydrate you, So there are so many levels to it, proper health and disease, and then even just simple hydration.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it. And even when you break down the different types of filters, to touch on briefly, like you mentioned, fluoride, it's a known neurotoxin. It hardens your pineal gland. Australia is probably one of the places with the highest percentage of fluoridation in their water. It's basically mass medication, right? Like, they're not putting it in there to treat the water, they're putting it in there to treat us.
Well, it's classified as a drug, right?
Yeah, and it's a fertilizer, a byproduct. It's a phosphate fertilizer byproduct. And it came about in the 1940s when they basically, again, it's now coming out, a lot of these studies had vested interest in, pushing the concept of fluoride for your teeth. And they say, well, the different areas where we fluoridated their water had less cavities. But now what's coming out is people with areas with unfluoridated water and fluorinated water both have the same decline in cavities. So you have this, and it disrupts your thyroid. And like we were saying, thyroid cancer from the ages of 30 to 40, it's up nearly 130%. And then you have bowel cancer, which is also up nearly 130% in the same age groups. And it's interesting because I feel like that's the age group where they kind of they don't care. You have a lot in Australia, you have a lot of people who just don't care. Tradies, things like that, who are just, it's fine, you can drink from the garden hose and stuff. It's like, yes, you could at one point, but again, we had a 57% increase in Australia itself of usage in 1 year of herbicides and pesticides.
Wow.
So you're nearly at 400,000 tons sprayed across Australia for a year. And you've got things like glyphosate, atrazine, paraquat that are used in Australia that are banned in so many other countries. I mean, paraquat is one of the most dangerous herbicides, and it can literally kill if you drink it, and it's sprayed everywhere. And again, these are the same chemicals that are regulated by an industry that has, is funded with a vested interest. So, and then you've got glyphosate, which is it's a known carcinogenic, banned in so many different places, as you said, like RFK Jr. is talking about that, wanting to get that, removed. You have... sorry to cut you off, but is that the one that feminizes... So that's atrazine.
Atrazine, okay.
Atrazine again. So that's... And then we wonder why, we have infertility is on the rise. Testosterone levels in men decreasing.
Yeah, so just for context for everybody listening, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's studies showing that atrazine actually created or made frogs hermaphrodites in some cases, and then also feminized majority of the male frogs in a big way.
So it feminized male frogs, it essentially castrated some of them, and it turned other male frogs gay. And the levels that they tested at were the levels allowed in our water.
Wow.
Or allowed in our sort of environment.
Yeah.
Used. That's runoff. And that's another reason why I have such a bee in my bonnet with spring water. And this is where a lot of my education is as well. Because, again, it's a highly unregulated industry, so you can water bore as much as you want, and spring water can come from groundwater. So it's really just water, rainwater that's recycled, which is already dirty, that's filtered through, herbicides, pesticide soaked soil into a aquifer and then drilled out.
And so when we're speaking about spring water, this is spring water we purchase from shops. Yeah?
This is spring water anywhere. It's from them, from shops. In the industry, they're known to be a bit of a cartel. Fun fact for you, I had a couple of them team up against me.
Wow.
I had their lawyers reach out to me and tell me that I had to stop what I was doing.
In regards to the business and
Water
marketing.
education.
Wow.
And I was misleading people with my comparative marketing, all of these things. So me being me, I just wrote back to their lawyers and I was just like, well, this is based on these studies. I sent them all the studies. I said, it's alarming that you don't have these studies. And then I said, this is based on this. And, and I said, if you can provide me back a comprehensive third-party test where you have tested each and every single type of pesticide, keeping in mind there are about 11,000 different types of herbicides and pesticides used in Australia. So how do you test for that? So I said, if you can send me back a comprehensive test where you can guarantee your customers that they're drinking safe water, yeah, I'll take my stuff down. I'll stop talking about you. I haven't heard back from them. That was nearly 2 years ago.
Wow.
So.
Wow, there you go. Checkmate. Well played.
Yeah.
And good on you for biting back. And I mean, it was very logical as well,
Exactly. It was all fact driven. And this is the whole thing, is like, my opinion on it is I don't like it, but it's based on fact. It's based on, they're non-transparent because they don't tell you how they filter. And filtration is the main question at this point in society. Unfortunately, the way that we live, it's a toxic soup.
Yeah.
Spraying the skies, the fire ant initiative, the herbicides, pesticide, agricultural runoff, everything is just, it's everywhere. And it's cumulative exposure that we have now.
Totally.
And so what we need to try and do is just reduce that. We can't live perfectly, I get that. You can't reduce it 100%, but you can definitely do better. Like, there's studies that say that if you ate an all-organic diet for a week, the studies showed that the people had a 70% reduction in glyphosate in their urine.
Wow.
It's like, and then there was another study, 90% of reduction of just general herbicides reduction in them. So can you imagine if you did that and you filtered your water properly? You'd be so ahead of the game. And I think where I get even more passionate about it is when children are involved. Because their blood-brain barrier isn't developed yet. Their detox pathways aren't developed yet. The gut lining isn't developed yet. So they absorb 20% more toxins than we do. And then they can't detox it out.
Yes.
So it's just like, what are we doing? We should be filtering their bath water. We should be reverse osmosis filtering their water that goes in there, whatever, their milk, their water, their food, what we're cooking their stuff in. I mean, it should be so robust. And the fact is, filtration is not all equal. So you have, like, on a spectrum, basically, to give you some idea, in micron size. So a strand of hair, depending on thickness, can be between 50 to 100 microns. Sand can be anywhere from like 50 to up to 2,000 microns, depending on how fine. Now, reverse osmosis filters at a level of 0.0001. So nothing's getting through that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to go like, oh, it's dead water and there's nothing in it. Correct. It has removed the good, the bad, the ugly, because that's the world we have to live in now. And that's where I also teach that the remineralization process is the second most important part of that, of drinking water. You've got to always ask, is it remineralized?
Yeah, very true. And you do both, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, incredible. And again, I think for everyone listening, you hit on so many good points. a lot of people just truly don't understand the massive detriment that this causes in their world. And if you're listening to this and you're suffering with brain fog and illness, you're getting sick all the time, stomach issues, gut lining issues, etc., then this is for you. You need to listen up and start making some big changes, because it may be a little symptom now, but it very quickly can turn into something quite crazy. And like you said, what is it, 130% up in cancers and other dysfunctions. So quite scary. But let's talk a little bit about what we're actually drinking, because we mentioned fluoride, and I believe there's some pretty clear correlation between low IQ and fluoride over in the US studies as well.
Yeah, it's actually really alarming, especially in children. And if you're pregnant, it affects the fetus as well. And the studies are showing there is a significant reduction in IQ if you're consuming fluoride.
Yeah, so fluoride, chlorine, chloramines, heavy metals, and I'm sure the list goes on in regards to pesticides and other crazy things as well.
Yeah, I think there are up to 300 different types of contaminants in Australian tap water.
Wow, okay.
So it's clear, but you have no idea what's in there.
Yeah, totally. On that note, I'm going to drink some of the beautiful PureFlow water, everybody. This is not a sponsored ad, I promise.
No.
So
he pays for his water.
Totally. And why I did start paying for my water was something that I saw from you. So I don't know how I got onto you originally, but I did see you do a crazy experiment with your water.
Yes.
And it was where you visually showed the toxins and the chemicals in the actual tap water. And when I saw that, I just couldn't ignore it. I was like, and to be honest, you know me, I'm a health freak. I'm in performance. I've been a PT and own gyms and all that sort of stuff. And I was still drinking, not tap water to be honest, but I was drinking a lot of bottled water, Coles water.
Yeah, you were drinking the Coles water.
Yeah, which inevitably is just as sucky. And so when I saw that post, I was like, damn, that's freaking gross. And I immediately reached out to you, started getting water. I got my filters for my showers. I bought my mum a filter. I bought my business partner a filter. I bought the office a filter. My staff work here, they bought their own filters. So we've got everybody on the filters, trust me. But I wanted to share everybody that experiment on the podcast, because that woke me up, and hopefully it scares the hell out of everybody else right now. And so why don't you run us through what this little experiment is and what it proves?
So basically what it is it's a water electrolyzer. So it runs a current through the water, and it'll separate any matter that's in it. And the colors in which it turns, you'll see, it indicates different levels of contamination. So you'll see a slight variation in PureFlow because it indicates minerals. And then you'll see a drastic change in the tap water, which will indicate anything from heavy metals, arsenic, herbicides, pesticides, chlorine, just the list goes on. And alarmingly, a lot of it is stuff that they put in to try and clean the water. So it's
quite scary.
Yeah.
Well, are you ready to scare everybody? Let's educate and scare people. So this is the tap water.
Is this where I plug it in?
Yes, plug that in there. So in this glass, my friends, we have the tap water, the normal tap water, and then this glass we have PureFlow water.
So what a lot of people like to say about this as well, they're like, oh, well, it's just separating the minerals in the in tap water. And it's like there aren't minerals in tap water. Do you know what I mean? It's not a case of there's just nothing good left in our tap water.
Yes.
It's very hard, even if you look at the way we farm and rainwater and things like that. It's all contaminated. So there's a study from Stockholm University that actually talk about all of the contaminants that they found in rainwater.
Wow.
And they found forever chemicals, herbicides, pesticides in rainwater in Antarctica. So in somewhere so untouched, you can imagine what's in our rainwater.
It's still going there. Yeah.
Right. So and that's what's what's circulating.
Yes. Yeah.
in our environment, and then it just basically it rains, and then it seeps through all of the stuff, and then it just
gets into our system and slowly kills us, basically.
Exactly.
And so if you're watching now, if you're listening to this on Spotify or another platform, you're going to have to jump on YouTube to watch this because it's already grossing me out. But one of these cups is clearly starting to go dark yellow, brownish, and you can clearly see the slight tinge in the PureFlow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And I mean, the other argument is just like there's not going to be such an abundance of minerals like if you make it turn that color, and we'll let it go for longer, and it'll start. You can see there's a
dark
bit of coagulation
on
around
the top.
there, the black.
Yeah, the
and black
at
is
the top.
heavy metals.
Wow.
And I think the most alarming thing for me is when I did these experiments with other versions of water as well. Like I've done spring water, and it's alarming how tap water and spring water really overlap in a lot of the ways that, because if you think, I mean, it's our wastewater and all of those things, the byproducts, it's released out into the environment, and that's essentially what spring water is.
And so tell me a little bit about microplastics in water. Are we getting a lot of microplastics in our water as well? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching a podcast the other week where a doctor was speaking about the rapid increase in cancers due to microplastics in everything.
Yeah.
But inevitably, when you're eating a lot of things in plastic and you're drinking shitty water that has a lot of microplastics.
Even the clothes we wear, like the non-wrinkle, waterproof things, it's just like that huge spill that happened in the US in 3M, where it was all of the resist Teflon basically was being dumped into their waterways, and the entire town was dying of cancer.
Wow.
And so they obviously paid a massive payout, but it just stems back to humanity just wants everything like that. And look at social media.
Yeah.
And the same is in the way we're living now. So they say we eat like a credit card's worth of plastic. I think I don't know what the time frame is. A year?
Yeah.
I hope it's a year, because if it's less than that, that's why.
That's right.
But and even like the new study that just came out, that there's more microplastics in glass bottles than in plastic bottles because of the cap.
Oh wow, there you go.
Because of the lining of the cap.
That's incredible. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And see, this is what's so frustrating. All the sneaky ways of seeping in, whether it's through the wording and the way things are explained or marketing, or you think you're doing a great job buying glass bottles and it's got a plastic cap and you're done.
Yeah.
So on that note, this is looking absolutely feral. And so Sahil, my amazing videographer, why don't we pull that out, and do you want to have a look at the top, Sahil? Yep. For everybody listening to this, we have a glass of tap water. It is literally black, green, and dirty poo brown, all come to the top. And then the PureFlow water, it's like a light yellow at the top. So
that's minerals.
Yeah, that's minerals. And then we've got heavy metals, fluorides, other contaminants, pesticides, chlorine.
Yeah.
So visually, it is absolutely disgusting. And to think that we drink that and that is going into our system is absolutely scary.
Yeah.
So if you are listening to this, I want you to head over to YouTube. You've got to like, share this with people. I'm going to make a few reels out of this one for sure. But this is the experiment that got me and really, really convinced me that I had to do something different.
Yeah.
And, anyone that knows me, once I'm on a good thing, I just share it with everyone. I try to get as many people onto as possible. Yeah. Hence why I got you on here, because I think, helping people that I love is one thing, but if we can get this out to more people, it is so freaking worth it, Yeah. So if that doesn't convince you people, I don't know what will.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to move these out of the way.
So there's also another study that's come out that says you release up to 900,000 bits of microplastic into our wastewater by washing that
into the
dishwasher.
Of course, that makes so much sense, yeah.
And that goes out into the water catchments, that goes out into the rivers, the springs, and everything. And that's in spring waters, that's in, our oceans, that's in everything. And that's what's getting into our fish. And it's very, very difficult. And So I know that a lot of people say, oh, but that's plastic. And yes, it's PET plastic, so it's robust, it's very, very strong. Not all plastic is made the same. Also, I am really strict with it's bottled and delivered the same day. So the driver goes to our facility and he picks it up and then delivers it that same day. There are no long transport times. There's no warehouse. There's no keeping it. And I think that's where the chemicals and the microplastics from those caps are at such a high level, because if you think about it, they have to be kept for years.
Totally.
They're bottled and they're transported across countries, nations. Continents, everywhere.
The amount of Coles water I was drinking, I would have literally 1,000 credit cards worth of microplastics.
And that was single-use plastic. That was the worst.
Oh, totally. And it sits in the sun. Like, as soon as sun hits that, it melts.
Yeah.
Again, it's clearly going to seep in there. Yeah. It sits on the shelf for God knows how long.
Yep.
And I was all over it for a really long time. And I could feel an immediate difference when I switched water, which was an incredible feeling.
Yeah.
Like you do actually noticeably feel a difference, which I think is so important.
Yeah.
I said this to my business partner and good mate, Maddie, this morning. We were talking about just the lie of the food pyramid and foods and pesticides and stuff like that. And it's so funny that we will believe a lie or believe something we've been told just because we've been told it, like you can drink out of the hose or whatever it may be. And even though we clearly feel like shit, and even sometimes if we switched and we still feel a difference, we go back to that belief because it's just been ingrained in us for so long. We ignore how we feel and what's actually happening, just because it's more convenient and it's the norm. It's socially normed. So, again, breaking the algorithm is all about literally shaking that up and helping people, and whether it's business or health or performance, realize the reality. And I think this is a good opportunity just for call to action for everybody. If you are suffering from health issues, if you're dehydrated, if you are getting sick on any level, you've got to start looking at this in a big way. And so I want to ask you about hydration, because this is also something that I had a challenge with. Now, if you don't know what happens when you're dehydrated, like, a lot of bad things can happen, obviously, but a noticeable difference in cognitive function, energy, lethargy, etc. And so I was always drinking a whole lot of water. I get my bloods done regularly, and I was always dehydrated in a really big way. And so since using your water, and then I also use hydrolytes as well at times, but getting my blood work done, it's been the first time in years where I have actually been hydrated. And then what did I feel? I felt so much freaking better. I was getting up earlier, I had more energy. And so it just shows you though, like, you think you're doing the right thing, you think water is the answer in total, but there's so much more to it than actually just drinking water, like remineralizing and using hydrolytes sometimes, or adding even extra sea salt. So what would you recommend to people out there, first and foremost, in regards to looking at their situation, potentially considering switching over, and then also for people in the performance realm, like, to make sure they're hydrated and actually maximizing the use of good water?
So I would say water isn't water. I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, water's water. Well, it's not. So you have different types of water that you can get a hold of. So if it's not remineralized and if there aren't minerals present in it, what the water molecule will do is it will attach to the minerals inside your body and it will strip you of them. So that's why you hear some, I think it was Dave Asprey or something, you see some weird things. People will die from drinking too much unmineralized water. The people have literally, in the US, I've read a couple things. So it's super important to be hydrated.
Do you know, sorry to cut you off, but do you know what's so funny about that is that so many times growing up, I had been told, be careful, don't drink too much water. You could, it's really harmful, you could die. And it's because the poor water quality and it's stripping your minerals. And so it's just so funny, again, these things that are spoken to you and told that we just end up believing and not really understanding it. But I digress.
No. So basically that's the first step is proper hydration. It requires minerals. That's why I push so hard. It's reverse osmosis and remineralized, so that your body can actually absorb it. I think the other thing is Celtic sea salt or sea salt. I'm reluctant now because I just saw a clip about how it contains so many heavy metals.
Okay, interesting.
So they did like some tests, and I used to use, and this is what I mean about constantly
I put it in every day, so I'm interested right now.
I used
Educate me.
to use it all the time, but now they've tested Redmond's, even the Celtic sea salt with a little guy on it, and it contains really high levels of heavy metals. I haven't delved into really like what that means and whether that was just clickbait or something, but that's what they're coming back with now. And that just goes to show, but that's our environment as well, that where we're harvesting the sea salt from is just covered in heavy metals as well now. So it's added to the
it's
list.
absorbing the water, right, from the sea. So I mean, that's super scary, and I use it every night after my sauna. What's your opinion on mixing hydrolytes?
I think they're great. I think as long as you find a really clean version of them. I think a lot of them can have like artificial sweeteners, things that will disrupt your gut microbiome, and there's certainly like citric acid is in a lot of different things as I think a shelf stabilizer, and that's derived from black mold. So, and it goes back to that whole, you think you're doing like the best thing, like, oh great, you've got hydrolytes, and you add it to your water, and it's like it's doing yourself a disservice. So definitely look at what's in them. I think they're great, and especially if you're high performance, active, you're sweating, you're losing a lot of minerals, you're going in the sauna a lot, they're probably needed, as long as you can find like a clean version. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I just find the combination for me really improves my energy in a really big way, which is incredible.
Yeah.
But now I'm scared about the sea salt, so we're going to have to sort that out. Another thing I've got to give up. My God.
I know. I was like, I went shopping the other day, and I was just like,
hey, but gap in the market, PureFlow sea salt, PureFlow hydrolytes. I think we're onto something here in a big way.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what. I mean, there's an opportunity in everything, isn't there? And we need it. So one of the things I'm interested also to talk to you about is you've been quite vocal against things like the Kangen machines and some of these brands with their filters and how they operate. Tell me a little bit about that. What's actually going on? What's the deal?
Let's talk about
let's talk about it.
So Kangen, in my opinion, is essentially a pyramid scheme. So it's an MLM, and you've got some really good ones, and then you've got something like Kangen, which sells a high ticket item. Now I've noticed in Australia, the Kangen salesmen are incredibly predatory. So I've spoken to probably 5-6 of them. Under the guise of like, oh yeah, tell me about it. Not one of them could tell me how the machine worked, how it filtered, if it filtered. They you know what they said? Yeah, it does. It's a great filter. And I think their biggest selling point is, my mom's aunt's dog walker cured her cancer with this machine, which is, they're unsubstantiated claims. So if you actually go back to the manufacturer, which is Enagic, they have said, like, they basically market themselves as just the provider. So they're not responsible for the people who sell. They're just contractors. So any of the claims they make will never fall back on them.
Got it.
And they actually, on their website, they actually say that we're not a water filter. We don't filter water. So it's an ionizer. So it changes the pH, and the metal plates ionize the water. Are there benefits to it? Yeah, maybe. But only after the water's been filtered properly, which the machine does not do.
Got it.
And if you're paying up to $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, like, your water better be coming out super filtered.
Yeah, I want extra hydrolytes with that.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't filter. And then, if you delve deeper, you have to buy extra filter to take out the fluoride, and then you have to buy an extra filter, a pre-filter, a post-filter, all of these different filters, and again, none of them are RO, and none of them remineralize.
Is it reverse osmosis or not?
No. So it's not reverse osmosis. It's literally just like a carbon filter. And then, so what you're really drinking is a high pH tap water. Just add bicarb soda, and I just saved you $6,000.
Wow.
Right? But what they do is they try and sell you a lifestyle that is attached with selling a high-ticket item. So it's just that really irks me, because I've known a lot of people who got stung by it and are still in debt because of it, because then they also have conveniently, their own afterpay associated. Oh, don't worry, you can pay in installments. And you'll make so much money, and look at this lifestyle, you can work from anywhere. Now, surprise, surprise, the 6 people I talked to that used to sell Kangen machines no longer sell them because they never made it big. Because they couldn't make any money off of it. It's like 1%.
Yeah. So do your research, of course. Again, a lot of these filters also don't reverse osmosis the water, do they?
No.
So if that's the case, you're getting a filter, it's going to filter out up to 90%, the underline up to.
Yeah.
And most of them won't reverse osmosis. Some of the ones that do won't remineralize. So
I'm not sure. Maybe I know like one other benchtop unit that reverse osmosis filters. We obviously have the portable benchtop unit for people who aren't in Brisbane or Gold Coast. That reverse osmosis, remineralizes, alkalizes.
Oh, it does, all 3.
All the things.
Okay, incredible.
And I made it at a really affordable price.
How much is that?
$600.
Testing you. Here we go.
Well, last time I checked, I think we had it on there for about $699.
Yeah. But if you're listening to this, you get it for $600. There you go.
I'll give you a discount.
Discount code Andy Anderson,
Andy.
breaking the algorithm.
And yeah, so it is. You have these other. The way I like to explain those big like carbon filters and all those like Waters Co filters and things like that is. It's there's so many different contaminants and complexities to filter out of your water. All of those little teeny tiny, layers, they're not going to be filtering it out 100% every time you run your water through there. Then that's why they can get away with saying up to. And the way I like to describe it is it's like a sponge. As you're running water through it, as it's full, it's saturated, it no longer catches the water. And that's how it is, like those kind of filters are with contaminants. So maybe it'll do a great job the first time, and each time after you use it, it's
deteriorates
rapidly. Also for that price.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, quite scary. Scary. We mentioned before about showers, and so this is another one where it's like you just don't think about it. Now, for people listening, I think our skin absorbs about 90% of what it touches, which is wild, right? So your skin absorbs a lot of crap.
It's your largest organ.
Yeah, totally. And so, when you're touching receipts and things like this, try not to touch it. But water, with all these chemicals, heavy metals, fluoride, etc., your skin is absorbing a lot. You said a stat before. What did you say? You said...
So taking a 10-minute shower is basically the equivalent of drinking 6 to 8 glasses of tap water.
Wow, okay. So if you've just looked at the experiment we've done, we're just staring at it right now, the black and green murkiness. Having a shower is like drinking 6 to 12. All right.
Of that.
That's concerning.
Yeah, and that's why we are constantly bombarded, right, from what we consume to taking a shower. And again, like we've got bath filters as well for the kids as well, because again, they're absorbing 20% more toxins than us.
Yeah, and this is 100% not about promoting the product in making sales here today. I want to make that clear. But how much do you sell a shower filter for?
120.
Yeah.
I don't even know the prices of my own products.
I know.
This is how not interested in the sales of it I am. I'm just like, I can give you all the facts. I can't tell you how much.
Yeah, totally. But look, if you go on the website, you'll find out. But long story short, why I just want to bring that up. I mean, $120. You literally put it on there yourself.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a plumber to come in and do this, which is why I go on for myself and mum, etc.
Yeah.
But
and it's important to also make sure you're changing the filter every 3 months because again, it's like that it fills
clogs up. Yeah.
And like I didn't change my filter. I was like a month or bit late for my shower filter. And I noticed my skin started breaking out, my hair, like I was sitting there, I was like, why do I smell like I just got out of the pool?
Wow.
And I changed that and
Crazy.
world of difference.
Yeah, amazing. So again, with the visual effect of that, like $120, you know, why wouldn't you just put that on there and sort of sort it out? It's wild.
Yeah.
But the amount of chemicals that we're absorbing through the shower, the heavy metals, even if you're drinking this water, they got you. They got you again because you're then copping it in the shower and when you wash your hands even, which is wild. And I'm not going to get into all the ways we touch water because it's just going to drive everyone crazy.
I know. Well, I wash my produce. I obviously buy organic, but I still wash it. I soak it in PureFlow, just because, you know, it's in our rainwater. It's you can be organic, but it's still around.
Totally. So what would you say to people who really want to improve right now? What are some of the tips that we should be implementing and thinking about to resolve this challenge and really set our family up, ourselves up for a better, healthier future?
I think the attempt to try and just reduce the exposure to these chemicals, and especially the herbicides and the pesticides, because they are just so terrible and toxic for us in every way, for our skin, our gut, our brain, every part of our body. So reducing the exposure to that would be changing the water. Just again, reverse osmosis, remineralize your water. Just make sure that it is that way. Trying to eat organic as much as you can. I know that there's a cost that comes with that. Showering with the shower filter. It's just, people think that it's just like maybe an aesthetic thing or it's just another gadget. It really isn't. You will notice a difference. And I guess like my thing to people is, if you're dubious, try it for 2 weeks. Try it. Try changing your water for, a few weeks. Try getting a shower filter and just see metabolically how you feel in a few weeks. And, like we worked with loads of like really big athletes, like Meg, the world champion hot box.
From Gold Coast,
They notice a difference. Every time they travel, they're like, they actually get sick when they travel and things like that, because
changes in, I think she was talking about skin changing completely as well.
Yeah, exactly. We worked with a few other like really great athletes, like Olivia May. She tracked trying PureFlow. She tracked it with her Whoop, and she said her resting heart rate was better, her recovery was better, her sleep was better, and she said the only thing I changed was the water. She used to drink tap water. So it was a huge like weight off of her body and off of her system, her nervous system, everything, of the burden of having to detox constantly. And she got a shower filter as well. So it was such a huge reduction in that exposure. That really, like, you start to just like, you're just sleeping a little better, brain fog's a little less, your inflammation, because every disease stems from inflammation. And pretty much most of them come from the gut, because that's our brain, pretty much, of our body. And so if you're constantly just loading it with this low level, and I think that's the thing for people, is like, and they're like, it's just a little bit. It's just like a tiny bit. There can't be that much. Or, you have the marketing for tap water. It's an acceptable level. We have acceptable
with
levels of chlorine. Exactly. Well, based on the studies and the science, there are no acceptable levels. It's like that new study about glyphosate that came out, because they're basically trying to convince us that it's safe. Where the WHO, first of all, if they're saying it, like, we're
run for the hills.
We're at the last level of defense. But I mean, they're even saying that it's a carcinogen. You've got all these news articles talking about news segments talking about the water and the carcinogenic levels of it. Like, it's in our faces.
That's right.
We've got to make the change.
Totally.
Do you know what I mean? And I get it, like, change is hard. It can mean a financial investment. It's difficult. It's, but once you just make that little change, it's like those habits that you talk about, make the habit, commit to it for a little bit, and it becomes second nature.
Totally, yeah, and it pays dividends in so many different ways. And to your point about the accumulation effect, again, we're talking about water today, but also looking at your foods. Looking at the quality of your meats, the foods in plastics. Are you eating certain grains, etc. I mean, all of these things are going to also have pesticides, toxins, certain hormones. That all of this added up creates a cluster of disease.
Well, they said that people, the new things are like these intolerances, right? Like gluten intolerant, like every other person is celiac, gluten intolerant. You're not necessarily allergic to the wheat. We're allergic to the way it's treated here.
Correct.
Because you go to Italy, you go to France, you can eat baguettes all day. And you come over here, our bread isn't bread anymore. I think Joe Rogan even just like covered that, saying that the way we spray our crops, they're just lifeless. We're just drinking glyphosate in a loaf of bread, pretty much. And then antibiotics with the meat. I think they say that most of our exposure to antibiotics come from the meat that we eat as well. And it's like, even another interesting fact is in our water, the wastewater and water catchments, they've found to have anti-abortion, like the abortion pills, and then the actual like birth control pill present in our water.
Yeah.
And so we're consuming that.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, everyone's infertile.
It's true. It's 100% true.
We've got to do better at connecting the dots. And then not sleeping on it.
Yeah, totally. Completely agree. Look, I want to talk to you a little bit about business as well, but before I do, I want to give you a bit of a contrarian quick fire round and get a yes or no answers.
Okay.
All right, are we ready? It's nice and quick. Fluoride in water should be classified as a neurotoxin, yes or no?
Yes.
Spring water is basically unregulated groundwater.
Yes.
Agree? Alkaline water is a scam, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah? Bottled water is worse than tap water, true or false?
Depends what bottle.
True.
True.
Yeah, well, we should do a test and find out.
Yeah.
That's on the next episode. The government and the regulators understand what's in our water and leave it in there anyway. Do you think they know that it's so toxic?
Yeah.
Every house should have a water lab test done annually.
Yeah, that'd be great. Unfortunately, they don't really have a place for that here. I mean, on that, I'm actually getting a bunch of different waters tested.
Yeah.
I'm going to try. It's a big investment because it's expensive, and it's hard because you have to break it down. You've got to get it specifically tested.
Yeah.
I want atrazine. I want glyphosate. I want paraquat. I want these different.
So you're testing for all of it.
I'm gonna test for the main ones.
Yeah.
You're looking at like $1,500 for the main things,
Wow.
and that's not even heavy metals. That's just herbicide, pesticides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. I think if everybody had one of these little gadgets at their house and they were doing their own water tests every day, they would shift pretty quickly. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the business side of things because you educate, you serve people. But entrepreneurship, it's not an easy game, as everybody should be aware of at this stage. But tell us a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey for you and, what does it mean? Yeah, what has it been like for you being a single mum, CEO of PureFlow Water, not only taking care of your daughter, but also trying to scale, grow and educate as many people as possible. How's the journey been?
Oh, wow, it's been a journey. That's for sure. It's had its ups and downs, but that's entrepreneurship. Look, I gave PureFlow everything. Like my heart and soul was in that while I was pregnant. I was delivering. I went into labor and I was still delivering water.
Oh, I know you were delivering it. You literally. Do you know how guilty I felt? You're fully pregnant. You're bringing up these heavy bottles upstairs.
Oh, you met me down at the car a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But no, like I would hop out of and I literally, and this is how it started. Like it was proper like grassroots. Like I was driving around in my car, driving around in like my Range Rover, pulling out water, and people were just like this like heavily pregnant woman like hopping out with her. Well, they were just like, what? Like people were just a bit gobsmacked. But I mean that was my dedication. I love what I did, and I still do. And I knew that I wanted to take it to its height. as much as I could before I gave birth. So I gave it everything. I was huge into education. I loved it. I had Esme, and that's where for me like the shift happened. I was 100 times more passionate about it, but I also understood that it needed to take a back seat for a bit. For me, motherhood was like the be all and end all.
Yeah.
I love being a mom. I love Esme. I'm a mom first, I'm a CEO second. But now she's 15 months old. I'm like, okay, it's time to get back in the game. I want to get back in, to the arena. I'm like chomping at the bit. But yeah, it's far out. It's been hectic. I've had crackhead